Welcome to my channel.
You're at 109 right now.
Do you want to know a few tricks on how to travel? Well, you're in luck. I'm going to tell you about loyalty points. I'm going to tell you about loyalty points. I'm going to tell you about credit cards, and I'm going to tell you about how to work internationally. All right, those are the three things we're going to talk about. If you want to stick around to hear about that with me, great. If not, keep it moving. Kim.
You're at 109 right now.
All right, y'all. So, my name is Larry Wiggs. Welcome to my channel, and I'm a traveler. All right. I'm not the traveler in the sense that I stay for like months at a time and I backpack everywhere that I go and I really rough it. Nah, like I guess I'm an opportunist. Like I'll get into let me give you an example. Okay, I traveled to Thailand in 2019, and then from Thailand, I flew to Vietnam, Singapore, and Cambodia. So I packed in, I got 4 trips in one, essentially. At the time, I was teaching in Oman, and then I left and I did those trips. So what? So first I was in Oman. I flew to Thailand, then Cambodia, Vietnam, and Singapore. So in one trip, I ended up hitting 5 countries. Yep. Okay. So there you go. There's a tip that I wasn't planning on making that a tip, but that's a tip. When you travel to one international location, look at um, you, you when you travel to a new international location, you now have shifted the dynamics of where you are, and you should take advantage of that. It's like, hey, now that I'm in this part of the world, I have access to this and that and these other countries, and let me take advantage of it. Okay. Um, let's see. All right. So I said I was going to tell you about the loyalty points. Okay. It's kind of interesting why I'm talking about this. I was just watching YouTube videos, and I noticed that. Wait, let me correct my posture here. Let me get right. I hope my head isn't cut off. So I was watching some YouTube videos a minute ago, and people were talking about how did that person travel? How did they get to travel as much as they do? And that person wasn't telling the audience, hey, I'm using points, I'm using travel points, I'm using etc., etc. And shame on that person for not telling her audience. I mean, you can't be the only person taking advantage of this stuff. It's there for everyone to enjoy. You can't tell people, you know, I do it this way because I have a lot of money. Like, no, that's not the case, right? Anyhow, enough about that. Loyalty points, right? So I have an account with Orbitz, Expedia, and Booking.com. I've got others as well, Airbnb and some others, but I'm going to talk about briefly. I'm going to talk about these Orbitz, Expedia, and Booking.com. I used Orbitz. I probably have like $4 in it because my travel hasn't been consistent, right? But I'll go back to Orbitz to use it, and I'll get a little benefit from using it. Sorry, I don't know why I chose Orbitz. I don't know. I've seen their advertisements in the past, and I just was like, hey, they're pretty cool. I trust them. Whatever. I don't know, but I don't have that much. I haven't earned that much of a benefit, from them. But if you're going to be serious about travel, you've got to consider the points, right? And you want to be loyal. You want to be loyal um, to these companies like Orbitz, Expedia, and then Booking.com. Booking.com. Booking. Yeah. Excuse me. Booking. Yeah. Okay, that's better. So I use Booking.com anytime I'm booking a hotel. Like for flights I'll use Kayak. Definitely go with Kayak. I had a student years ago who traveled from Korea to Amsterdam, I think, and she paid like 600, 500 bucks, and I was surprised because trips from for me, whenever I searched for trips from Korea to wherever, it was always $1,000 or more. So I was quite surprised. And so she told me, "Oh, I found it on Kayak." So I just kept using Kayak. So I use Kayak. That's another one. Booking.com, Expedia, Orbitz, etc. Okay, so there's that. So use those points. That's important. Use the points. Wait, what am I saying? I'm saying use these companies, but then also be loyal to these companies, because by being loyal to these companies, you will find that your points will add up, right? And those points will turn into rewards. It's a no-brainer, right? So if you're planning, so if you're starting now, if you're looking at the long term, like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna travel for a year, maybe think about the points. But I think there's a hack in there. It's like, people who travel for long periods of time don't necessarily stay in hotels. They're not paying hotels. That's just ridiculous. They figure out other ways to travel, like couch surfing for one. You meet people who have the same philosophy about life, and they're like, yeah, sure. When I was young, yeah, I hung out. I like to party and, just take it easy. Yeah, crash on my couch, stay for a couple of days, and then, get moving. And I become a part of your story. I become one of those people, who you trusted along the way and who made sure that you had a good, safe experience. I personally have never travel surfed. I have friends who have traveled to many countries who have done it. I've considered it and I tried to do it. And then at the last minute, I chickened out and I booked something, a stay at, with booking.com or Airbnb or what have you, whatever. I paid. I paid for all my travel, right? Not because I have all the money. No, I spent a tremendous amount of my money in order to travel. But because, yeah, I paid for the safety of knowing, hey, you know, nobody's gonna be. I'm not sleeping on anyone's couch. I'm not. No one's gonna be mad at me. Hey, man, you gotta take your shoes off when you come into my apartment. Like whatever. All right. So loyalty points are absolutely essential for travel because the more often that you travel and the more often you use a particular service, the more points that you get, and the points equate to free perks. It's a no-brainer. All right, next, credit cards. Credit cards. All right, you love them, you hate them. Credit cards force you to be responsible. If you want to use them, you got to be responsible using them. So, excuse me. I'm only going to talk about one credit card, one that I use. It's called United Airlines. I even forgot the name of it, but it's United Airlines' credit card, right? They have the mileage program and everything. Even before I had a United Airlines credit card, I was flying on United, and I had my membership points and everything was adding up. And for 9 years, I was flying between Korea and America, just going back and forth, and my miles were adding up. Yep, I remember I had like 40,000 miles, and I eventually took a trip. I flew from Korea to the Philippines and back. It was a round trip ticket that I purchased on my miles. Now, when I was leaving the Philippines, that route, there was a layover in Guam. So look at that. I was able to fly from Korea to the Philippines and then also have like a 16 to 20-hour stay in Guam before going back to Korea. I welcomed the opportunity to stop in Guam. That was great. I did that all on miles, right? The one thing that I will say about United Airlines is credit card is that you get, I think it's a global entry. They waive the fee for global entry. Global entry is this program whereby if you sign up, hand over all of your information to the government lets you travel, or rather allows you to skip the lines when you re-enter the United States. And so I would leave America, go travel to Europe, Africa, wherever, and then when I returned home, I'd be tired after that long flight, and I'm like, I just want to get out of this airport, and I'll just walk straight through the global entry lines, or corridors. There's no one really standing in line. Very, very simple, very, very easy. So I would recommend it. In addition to that benefit of having access to global entry for free, you get TSA pre-check along with your United Airlines thing every time you purchase a flight. Is that right? I think anytime I purchase with United Airlines, wait a minute, I think it's because I have global entry that when I purchase a ticket, I'm TSA pre-checked. I'm not certain, y'all. I'm not certain. But the United Airlines credit card is good for global entry. Oh, you're gonna have to fact check me on that one. But I think you get TSA pre-check as well. So that's a good credit card. The other I've heard other people complain it's not really a good credit card. Like the interest rates aren't very good, and some other factors if for you to consider. So if you really want to consider a credit card, based upon its merit and look at all and check all of the boxes or see if the card checks all of the boxes, do your due diligence. I'm only speaking from my experience. United Airlines credit card, it's pretty good, pretty good. All right. All right. Finally, work travel arrangements. Work travel arrangements. My travel focused on or centered around my work and my work life. Let's say that. I lived in Korea for 9 years. I was too timid at that time to be very adventurous, and so for over 9 years, I only traveled to maybe 7 countries in total. All right, maybe. But thereafter, when I left Korea, I worked in Saudi Arabia. Oh, by the way, I was an English teacher. I taught English for 9 years in Korea. All right. And then I moved to Saudi Arabia where I taught English. Now, in Saudi Arabia, because I was in a new location, and this goes back to what I was saying, the way to travel is when you're in a new location, explore, right? So I got to Saudi Arabia because I was in a different part of the globe. For one, I had already lost 9 years, living in Korea and not traveling. And I was like, gosh darn it, I need to travel. And two, because I was in Saudi Arabia, I was closer to Europe, Africa, and some Asian countries than I was in South Korea. So, as I mentioned before, most of the trips that I could have taken from South Korea to Europe, they generally cost, $1,000 or more. Well, those same trips from Saudi Arabia to Europe, Africa, or some parts of Asia probably only cost me less than $1,000. Sometimes just like $600, and so yeah. So from where you are, branch out. That's the point. Okay, now back to the work travel thing. Yeah, so I worked in Korea, I worked in Saudi Arabia, I worked in Oman, and I did a teacher training in Peru. But let me tell you, first to get the jobs to teach English, the number one site that I used, it's been eslcafe.com. ESL, English for, no, excuse me, English as a second language. ESL, cafe, CAFE.com. No spaces or anything like ESL Dave Sperling. I hope I got his last name right. He was the creator. Great guy. You can trust him. He's taught English all over the globe, and created the website to help people find jobs all over the world. Great website. So that was the first website I used to find a job, and perhaps you should too. Good luck with that. There's another website. I didn't do my due diligence before creating this. You have to do the due diligence. All I'm doing is just telling you my personal experience. It was a website called World Travelers. World Travelers, if I'm not mistaken. What they do is they list work life experiences. What is it? You can trade your instead of trying to describe it right now, here's what I'll tell you what happened to me. I flew, I paid for a flight from Los Angeles to Costa Rica. I lived in the jungles of Costa Rica for 3 weeks. How did I do that? In the jungle of Costa Rica, there was a farm, an organic farm. And in order for them to make money, they produced these night tours, these tours at nighttime. And what they needed were volunteers to clean the trail or the paths, the footpaths for these night tours. Because when the tourists come, you have to be careful where they walk. I mean, it is the jungle, right? But so anyway, it was our job to clear the paths and just keep everything tidy. They didn't pay us. They didn't pay us to do this. They asked us for 4 hours a day to do some work in the jungle to make the jungle a welcoming, place. And so we cleared the paths, the footpaths for the travelers around this farm. And in exchange for the 4 hours of work we did in the day, we were able to pitch a tent under a canopy. The canopy was on their land, and the canopy was strong and sturdy so that even when it rained hard, we did not get wet. And we had this huge canopy. You pitched your tent on this platform under the canopy. They gave us mattresses to pitch the tent on top of the mattress. So I was sleeping on a mattress, but there was a tent on top of the mattress. So I was sleeping in the tent on top of a mattress. So it's kind of comfy, right? That whole platform, there was running water, there was electricity, and we had shelter from the elements. So that whole experience right there, all I did was I did my 4 hours of work. There really wasn't 4 hours worth of work, especially with the other travelers. If you just work together, you can knock out that work in 1 hour and say you did 4 hours, Anyhow, so we cleared the paths and we enjoyed ourselves. I spent money while I was there buying food because I wasn't having pasta every day. They gave us pasta, they gave us bread. I don't remember what else they gave us. Did they give us pasta sauce? I don't recall. So if you really wanted to make a nice meal, you'd have to spend a little bit of your money. Now, we were in the jungle, but maybe 1 mile away, you'd walk and then you can go into town, get ingredients, and then bring them back to the camp. And then use those ingredients to make a meal that'll last you 2, maybe 3 days. Refrigeration, yeah, there was a refrigerator, but I wouldn't have trusted putting things in there for very long. The ants and other insects would arrive. So it was just a place to store it so that it just wasn't left out into the elements. But anyway, so use loyalty points, use a credit card, be a responsible, traveler. Get your credit cards and use them loyally. Use the same credit cards, get points, okay? Travel points. And then there are ways to travel. You don't always have to buy the most expensive. You don't have to travel first class. You don't have to buy an expensive trip to go anywhere in the world. And one example of that is I paid $350 for a round trip ticket that took me from America to Denmark to Sweden to London to England, not England, excuse me, Ireland, and back to America for $350. Yep, I made a video about that one. All of that can be done. The way that came about is I'm a member of a travel group. I share, I try to share my experiences and other people share theirs. People who are more knowledgeable and who have more experience with travel, I benefit from their information. So there's this one guy, Ed Sanders, posted some information, and I was like, hey, that looks like an itinerary I can follow. So I looked at that and I was like, yo, I'm doing that. Sure enough, just as he said, I booked the flight, $350. $350 later, I was flying to Denmark and then Sweden and then England and then Ireland and then back to Denmark. And I was going to stay in Denmark, but Denmark was too expensive for me. So I decided to add another country to it, just like I mentioned. This is what you have to do. And so I flew from there to Poland and back. I flew to Poland. I stayed 48 hours or so. Flew back to Denmark. Stayed a night or two in Denmark. And then I was back to America. The trip basically cost me $350 round trip. I had to add the trip to Poland. Cost me maybe $200 round trip. So that's $550 to travel to what, 5 countries? 5 countries. Now the hotels and all of that kind of stuff, yeah, that was not included in the cost of the flights. So just remember that. But everything else, oh my goodness, it was très magnifique. Mwah. All right, so I did it. I told you about the loyalty points. I told you about the credit cards, and I told you about the work travel experiences that you can have traveling. So this video is packed with a lot of information. Remember, you can travel. You can do it. Do your research. Oh, and before you travel and do any of this stuff, you need your passport. You always need a passport. You got to get in and out of the country, and you have to do it legally with your passport. So that's how you do it. That's how it's done. You don't have to break the bank. You don't have to break the bank traveling, okay? So, and besides, if you want to get your feet wet traveling, just start right where you are. Go to the next city over. Go to the next 2 or 3 cities over. Come back, and then, travel. Travel could be from here to across the room and back. That's traveling. It doesn't have to be thousands of miles out, to make videos about and all that kind of stuff. That's the truth. That's the real deal. You can do it. All right? That's some valuable information right there. Peace and blessings, y'all. Thanks for watching. This is iSee109.
You're at 109 right now.